I am starting the recording, so we've got a recording going on. This is the lecture for 320, Design 320. It's Tuesday, the 26th, and we're going to go over a few things today, the what to do, a little bit on the resources, but first, I want to show you how you use your grades. So I'm in a student view right now. And you'll see that there's a little dot here. There's something in week 1. Howdy, Brian. Come on in. And you'll see over here on the right that there's some stuff. And so if I click on the little comment thing, comments open up. And you'll be able to read my comments just really quickly. And so I just wrote sample note. I don't often write in this area. I mostly write on the assignment itself. So how do we see that? If you click on the assignment, then it comes up and I can view the feedback. And lo and behold, there's the feedback. And I just made something right there. But you'll be able to see that's normally how I do the notes. That's how markups happen in industry. So I figure we'll go ahead and keep with that. And now in industry, they have really, really nice programs to keep track of comments and changes made by comments and stuff like that. But this is still pretty good. Gives you a little sample note, and then you can add a comment back. You can even talk into it. Right here, if you do a media comment, you get to start your mic and your webcam, and you can say, "I totally disagree with you. What are you doing?" Or you can say, "Wow, I got that done really well." So if you don't like to type, you can give me feedback that's on media. I could do the same thing for you, but I usually just type. Okay, so that's a little bit on how to look at this. Now, what you want to do is view your feedback and see if there was something you need to change, especially if you got a grade that you want to make higher. First of all, always make the changes anyway, because you're going to turn a lot of this in at the end, and that's just the process we go through in the design world. You do something, somebody reviews it, they mark it up, you change it, see if the change is okay, and on and on. So go make the changes, and if you don't feel like submitting them, that's okay, but you can resubmit them, and eventually I'll see them and get them fixed up. Okay? And then if you go, "What is this guy talking about?" Then you can go to my appointment schedule and make a review meet with me and say, "Yeah, I needed a review meet. So that was good. I figured it out. I got it." Now, if you don't need it, that's okay. But you can come here and you can make an appointment with me. As you can see, people are making appointments. I love it. I love getting one-on-one appointments, because then I can actually address specifically your need. All right, so that's the system. That's sort of how it works and what we do. And you get to that through your grades. Go to your grades. And yours will show up. Shows that, "Oh, I got a bad score. I got a 0. So then you'll want to figure out why. Read the comments. Read your stuff. And then if you do have one that's late, you can put your work in here. Now remember, if you're making a revision that you've already submitted one on, it is not late after a week, up to a week. If you didn't turn anything in, I believe everybody turned something in. I don't think there was a single person who has a late submittal. If you miss one of these and you want me to look at it later on, you'll put it in your late submittal. Okay? There we go. There's all that stuff. So now, let's take a look and see what we're going to do. Anybody have any questions about that, first of all? Any questions about that? What I saw was that everybody did a great job. Okay. Then let me enlarge this a little bit. Too large. Student view. Now we can look at our calendar. So remember, to figure out what's due this week, right? You go to the to-do. And you figure out what's to do. So here's a little recording of it where I give some explanations, and I expect you to just watch that. I don't really need to cover that because it's been there for a week. So you can just watch that, and it gives you an overview of what we're going to do this week. And then I write it down. Do a bunch of sketches. It's your choice. You can use SketchUp, AutoCAD, or hand sketches on paper, or some other method. You may have another method. You might have Rhino, or Tinkercad, or Photoshop, or Illustrator, or Paint. Okay, if you can use it, if you can get the work done, that's okay. Okay, and then here's some resources right here. If you click on that, it takes you to a Google Drive that's got a ton of stuff in it. Okay, and importantly, here's the assignment. This tells you what to do. It's sort of like all the practice. And from this, you'll be able to put some stuff in your portfolio. So if you do all the things it says to do in here, using the stuff you find in these, you'll be set. Okay? So this is resource material. It's here for you. So, do a bunch of work and then complete the submittal template. So you'll go to your work and you'll take some images, snip them, put them in. And remember, there's also a participation certificate. I think I actually put it in there already. Let's see. I did put it in there already. So here it is. This looks real familiar. This looks familiar. Now, many of you had questions about this and how to do it. And I put a link to some samples on the calendar for you so that you could see how to fill this out. So you're going to do some tracing and then just show that you can figure out what a perspective line is. And then a 1-point perspective, a 2-point perspective. And then here's your certificate. So I still, obviously, this recording isn't in here. This recording isn't in here. And I'll be making these for you to put in. Okay? So there you go. That's what to do. And again, here's how, if you don't have the resources, if you don't have one of these capabilities, here's your resource right there, how to access it, and then how to actually get to it. Okay, so that's a little bit of a brief preview for the week. There's a bunch of stuff there. Okay, you're going to trace, find perspective lines, do a 1-point perspective and a 2-point perspective. Everybody okay with that? Who already knows what a perspective drawing is? You can raise your hand. There's a little raise hand thing down here. You can raise your hand. And let's see, how do I see all those? That's interesting. There we go. Now it's telling me who raised their hands. That's cool. So a few of you have, and that's good. You don't have to know what one is, but if you do, it's kind of neat. And now you can take your hand down. So that's now you have to go and say lower your hand. Kind of a weird system, but that's cool. Okay, so that's kind of neato. Let's take a look at the lecture material for today. So today is about sketching. So Lily asks, where will we find those on the 1-point and 2-point perspective? They're going to show up on these calendar dates when I've got them made. So normally I just get down and do them. But you're going to see that some of them are already in here. Here's a 1-point perspective. And oh, I got them in here already. Here they are. Good question, Lily. Here's the one on 1-point perspectives. And here's the one on 2-point perspectives. So you can watch it. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to take the time to watch them in the lecture today. But they're really, really good. They're done by a professional. And when you watch it, you go, ah, that is so good. You can also use, I've got some that I'm going to put on here. So long as you've got one of them on there, you can use it. But that's the one I'm talking about. That's the one I'm talking about. But I've got to get them in to here, which I haven't done yet. I have to get the YouTube and put it in and do all sorts of stuff. I'll have it shortly. Good question. Okay, so let's talk about 1-point perspective and 2-point perspective. Oh, first I want to show you some a little overview of 3D graphics and design and how does sketching fit into this. Okay, so I thought I'd start by showing you some nice portfolios. And this is what people created last semester. So that's what we usually do when we get started, but you're not going to do that. And you're not going to do that. We just don't have the ability to teach you that online. But these are great because, you know, they really do help you figure out what something looks like. And you'll notice there's a SketchUp view. You're going to learn how to do things like that. These are all perspective sketches that help you understand the simplicity of something. That's a sketch also. These are all sketching work. So before you start a project, usually you sketch it out so you just have some basic ideas. How big is it? What's it going to look like? What do you talk about? And then you get into making maybe some simple models, making it a more complex model. And same thing here on another one, some research. Okay, some basic sketches of what you're going to do, a little bit more. So that's kind of cool. And so you're going to create this kind of stuff yourself. Okay? So, and you get to kind of make it look like you want, but this is just shows that you're able to present your work. And again, you're not going to really get this much work in, but you'll get this in, how to just make basic sketches, sketch some things, make some buildings, do some site plans, do some more basic rendering, sketching objects so you can put them in place, research and development. What do you want it to kind of look like? How are you going to do that? What'll it be? I mean, look at how nice this looks for a sketch, right? Sketches just give you a quick visualization that you can start talking about. Just barely start talking about. Getting closer and closer and closer to what they want to have made. Get some annotations so you know about what size it is. And then, okay, how am I going to make it? I'm going to make it out of these sliced pieces that I can just cut up and put together. I can make this whole thing on a laser cutter or a plasma cutter. Same with this one. There's research and how do other people make it and what do I want to do? And then you just start sketching. So do you see how sketches are an integral part of the design process, and then they slowly build up more and more information to the point where you can get some good detailed drawings started, and then you can start doing some renderings. Isn't this cool? This all came out of SketchUp, by the way. It all came out of SketchUp, and this was an animation that we used with a specific program that we've got. Isn't that cool stuff? These are all portfolios for this class. So, quick sketch. How do you learn how to sketch? If you can't present your basic idea at this level, you're going to have a hard time getting anybody to want to look any farther. Okay, and there's different methods to sketch things. And so here's some nice little SketchUp work. Again, can you present your work? That's the real thing, but that's a pretty good presentation of it. And it started with a basic sketch, add some details, and add more details. Okay? So same thing here. How do you get that done? This was a cool project that actually got that thing built in SketchUp. Okay, and again, start out simple and get more complex. Simple to complex. And notice none of these look really the same. But here we go. Here's some inspiration for some chairs. What are they? Sketches. Basic, basic, basic. A little bit more detail. A little bit more detail. Now we're really starting to get into some modeling. And can you actually make it? Yes. This was actually, again, making this from slices of plywood that would look like that. And there it would be. Kind of cool stuff. So this is the type of work that you may look. There's some very, very important sketches, right? These are really cool. Da Vinci's sketches. And so here's another nice one. Very clean. This one's super clean. How do I make different perspective views of different things and get them in there? And so those are all, I mean, look, it doesn't take too long to put something together like this. And all of a sudden you've got a concept. This is just excellent, excellent sketching work. Okay, and then a little bit more, a little bit of SketchUp, again, a little bit more work. So you can see that this course, you're going to do much the same work, but you'll have different, looks very complex. Yeah, Natalia says, that looks pretty complex. And it is. This is a college course. But we teach it to you SOS. Start out simple and make it more. Look how you know, how long will it make you to sketch something like that? Add a few details. This is just a program we've got. It's called Slicer for Fusion. And you just put your thing in and it does it for you. And then we did a little bit more cool work. A lot of it has to do with the research part of the work that you have to do. So this one is another cool, that's a sketch. So you can see how sketching is an important part of design development. That's the real takeaway that I'd like for you to do there. Sketching is important. Okay. Now I want you to look at sketches. Oh, this is just a video. I don't need that. You'll be able to watch that. That's just some sketches. That's a little video. And this is what goes on a sketch. This is another video just about why do we sketch? So this is all about sketching. Okay, and these are videos for you to watch. I don't need to show you a video in class of something you can watch. They're explained. This one didn't have an explanation. Okay? So now, what are we going to cover this semester? We're going to cover the design process that's going to, yeah, Natalia goes, this looks hard at the beginning. Yeah, it always looks hard at the beginning. You're right. But that's our job as professors, is to just kind of show you how much you're going to learn so that you really do have a sense of accomplishment by the time you're done. Right? You look forward right now and go, oh my gosh, there's no way. And then you're going to look back and go, wow, that was a lot of work, but I was able to do it. So that's cool. Okay. So what are we going to do with sketching this semester? Every project that we do is going to start with a sketch so that you can communicate to me your concept. Okay, that's where it starts. So there are going to be, starting in week 6, you're going to have a series of 2 or 3 week projects that you'll be able to work on. And you get to kind of pick the project, not really, but kind of. You'll get to pick if it's landscape or architecture or mechanical or something like that. But I'm going to define what you need to do in it. And you're going to start with some research and a sketch. And your sketch is going to define to me the important parts of your design. Then we'll start working on the design. So every project that we do is going to start with a sketch. If you want to hand sketch and take a picture on your camera and submit that, that's absolutely fine. If you sketch on a tablet, that's fine. If you don't have any of those tools and want to sketch in SketchUp and kind of 3D sketch, that's fine. I'm going to give you those tools starting today and going through this week and next week and the week after. Okay? So that's what we're going to do with sketching. Every project that you do is going to include some sketching. It's very important that you learn how to summarize your intent, because that's how you develop it. Then you show it to somebody and you talk about it and you get more ideas and your design develops. And it just gets stronger as you go. So now, we need to talk about tracing. And you're going to see that there's, in this sketch material, there's some stuff about tracing. Let's see what it says to do. It says to trace these 3 objects. Tracing is a quick way to put an idea down in paper that maybe you don't have the skill to represent. It's also a great way of simplifying an image so that whoever's looking at it doesn't get too much information. Right? So here are 3 images. Each one has a little too much information. If I want to know, this is a salmon. If I want to represent this very quickly, I don't need everything. I maybe don't need these tiny little details here or these details here. And maybe I don't need all the shading. So I can do a tracing of this very quickly and have it in. Maybe I want to make a 3D model of this, and I know that 3D models all start from a flat drawing. So I can trace this simple flat and then make it into a 3D model. So tracing is a well-established method of getting just the parts that you need from an image. This one, do I really need all of these little things and the different line weights and that little dot to know that this is an acorn? Probably not that much. Now, maybe you want to, but you don't need to. Okay? And this rabbit over here, I certainly don't need the shadow and the rocks and the shading and all the little pieces of hair to know that this is a rabbit. So I'll summarize my drawings with a tracing. So now when you work on something, I'm going to suggest you figure out what you're working on to help you know what's important. Okay, so in this case, I'm asking you to trace foods of local indigenous populations. So you should know a little bit about that. Okay, this is your chance to actually do a little bit of research. Okay, does that make sense? Somebody got a question? That is so cool. That is really cool. Do you have any pictures of it that you can trace? Okay. Yep. Yep. Cool. Then I tell you what, I'm going to give you the opportunity. If you have some pictures that you would rather trace those instead of these ones, you're welcome to do that, because this is really know a little bit about the indigenous populations and then figure something out about them. And so you've got a little background knowledge. If you would like to apply that and do different tracings to show that you can use this skill on those, you're welcome to do that. That's a very cool thing. Okay? But, okay, so here we go. So what I'm going to do now is do you, let's see, so that question is, you need to put tracings and the list on the same slide, or so what you're going to do is you're actually going to put one of your best tracings right here. So you're going to do it, and then you're going to put it into your portfolio. So where you put it or where you do your work, you can just have it in a sketchbook or put it in your Google Drive, and you're going to take one or two of your best ones and put it here. Okay? So this is sort of like an instruction sheet, and this is where you're going to submit one of your best results. So, and then Casey asks, can you hand draw? Yes, absolutely. You're welcome to do that. As a matter of fact, normally if we were in a face-to-face class, I've got tracing paper and I hand it out. It's just a really, your body learns more when you do things by hand, and you can actually learn a lot that way. So those are both good questions. Okay, but that's some stuff you can do. Now, I've got for you, if you go into this tracing material, I've got these as images for you already. If you want to do it in DWG AutoCAD, I've got you a template with those already put into it. And if you want to do it as SketchUp, I've got a template with those already into it. And I've made videos for you so that you can see. So there's the video in SketchUp, and I have to find my one in AutoCAD to give to you. I obviously haven't put it on yet, so I'll look for that one. Okay? So there's a bunch, right? You watch these drawings so that you know these videos, and then you get started doing stuff. And the first one is SketchUp with tracing. So let me do that. Let me do some sketch. Oh, shoot. Come on. I hate it when it does that to me. I think I have to back up and get back in. I'm out for a while. It seems to stay off. Let's see if it lets me back into my existing version. Yep, it did. Okay. So what I can do is I can go find that sketch material, tracing, and I can actually download that. And since I've got started and everything's open, I can just open it and I can start tracing. There it is. And I can just start tracing things. Now, I've got a video to show you how to do this, but I want one more toolbar called Top View, Views. And now I can start tracing. And my scroll bar lets me go in and out. Shift in the wheel lets me pan. So I can just start, and I'm going to trace these with a 2-point arc. Click, click, arc, click, click, arc. And it doesn't have to look great. And I've got a whole video on this for you. Okay? So that's what you're going to do. You're going to get started on that. That's not too bad, right? That's how you get started with tracing by hand, with SketchUp, or with AutoCAD. That's going to be your first job, is to trace. Okay, but now I want to talk about perspective lines a little bit. Okay, and perspective drawings. So I'm going to go into a Jamboard and just show you stuff. And then you're going to watch some of those videos on your own and learn even more. Okay, but a perspective is a way to make something look 3D while you're flat. And what our eyes see is that horizontal lines aren't really horizontal in our mind, in our eye. We don't really see that unless I'm looking at a flat piece of paper. But when I'm in the real world, horizontal lines all go back to what's called a perspective point. Okay? And so if I were to draw a building from a perspective view, all my lines go back to this horizontal point. So if this was a window, on a building, it would look like that. And vertical lines look vertical. So that is how perspective line works. And this is called a 1-point perspective because I'm really only going to 1 point. Now you can also have a 1-point perspective where you've got a horizon line, and it's the good old draw the road, right? And the road goes back to that point. And everything above the horizon line goes downward to that point, and everything below the horizon line goes upward to the point. Okay? And then maybe there's something over here. And maybe what I'm seeing is that there's a great big cactus right here. And so here's my great cactus. Ready? There's a cactus. And then farther away, the cactus is a little bit smaller. Looking, it's really as big, but it looks smaller because it's farther away. So that's the essence of perspective. And then a 2-point perspective is when you see things going the other way also. And there's another perspective point out there. So that's the essence of perspective. Okay, so now, here's a little video, which, oh, that one's tracing, darn it. I got that one in the wrong spot. Oh, that one's tracing, yeah. So I've got a little video for you that I'll put in on finding perspective lines, but we're going to do that right now. Okay, so let me open up this one. It's a little template. It's available for you. You can see here, this is a very famous building. Anybody know what happened there? This one is actually a Woolworths lunch counter. Anybody know about the Woolworth lunch counter? 1960s. Yep, you got it. Okay, so this is actually an image of the building where that happened. So, but I'm using it to learn about perspective. And so you can see these lines that don't look horizontal really are, but I'm seeing it in a perspective view. And so if I'm to sketch that, I just take my line tool and I try to get those. Yeah, that looks pretty good, huh? Think. That one's off a little bit. I don't always get my perspective views perfect. Sometimes there's a little stretch in the images. That one looks pretty good. That one looks... So all I want you to do on this one is draw perspective lines. That's it. And then if later on you want to go, I can also draw vertical lines. I can really figure out sort of by tracing. And don't worry about that. You can get rid of those. Okay. SketchUp is a little bit annoying unless you make little gaps. It tries to fill everything in for you because it's pretty sure it wants to fill things in. But you can see pretty quickly you can get a nice perspective drawing that you can use. So that's what you're supposed to do with these 1-point perspective drawings. First, just make perspective lines so you know where they are, and then draw some vertical lines. And then as you get better and do more and more and more, fill in details. You don't need to make each and every one super detailed. Okay? You're going to want one detailed image for your portfolio. All I really want to get across is the concept of perspective lines, and that perspective lines converge on a point. Okay? So I just have some examples for you of that. How about this one? Jake, you seem to be pretty well read. Do you happen to know what this bridge is important for? Did you study? Yeah. You know what? I think it's either Missouri or Alabama. I don't remember which. I don't remember which. I do know that my uncle was there. My cool uncle. He's a hippie. Always been a hippie. He also happens to be like a property magnate. He owns tons of properties. It's so cool. He just used to buy old properties and fix them up so people could live in them for free, and people started giving him money for living there. And now he's got all these properties, and people actually like living there because he fixes them up kind of for free. It's really cool, man. He's my cool and groovy uncle. He did lose one of them in the fire up in Ashland. He lost one of his and his 1956 Buick. Oh, his Buick went up in flames last summer during the fires in Ashland. He didn't really care about his house. He cared about his Buick. He says, I can rebuild my house. I can't rebuild my Buick. But again, I can do that same type of thing where I can make curves, and you'll see. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And so what did I say about a sketch? Do you remember? It's just approximate. It's got to get so I could come back and I could go, yeah, okay, I need to spend a lot of time to get that perfect. And so maybe I'll make it out of 2 or 3 pieces, and I'll get it like right on, and I'll get it just perfect. and I'll have spent more time than I want. Okay, because really and truly, somebody looking at this, you just have to get across the idea of Edmund Pettus Bridge. It's not for anything other than that. Sketches are meant to be quick. It's like what we used to call a napkin design. You sat down, all you had was a napkin, and you scrabbled on it, and somebody started from there. So that's a good point. If you've got a lot of time, you'll spend a lot of time and really make beautiful sketches. Or you get super good at this, and it hardly takes you any time to do it anyway. Okay, like my niece, she's a real pro at SketchUp. She uses it professionally in her landscape architecture job, and she is so fast, but she does it for hours a day. Does that help answer that a little bit, Jake? About, like, do I really need that part to look right? See how long it's taken me? Man, this is taking me forever. And then the question is, I still got it wrong. Did that help me out at all? Did that make my sketch any better? So that's a really good question. And it's about how much time do you have and how much effort do you want? Okay? So let me get back to, so that's how to get started finding perspective lines. Oh, so what I wanted to do there, sorry, was show the perspective lines on this one. This one's kind of weird. Where are the perspective lines? Maybe these are on a, they are. They're pretty close. If you took all those lines, those ones would be going somewhere, and then these also go somewhere. Those also go somewhere. And so you'll see that on one of mine. You don't have to do perspective lines on this one. This one's for tracing. But here's one with 2-point perspective. So that's kind of how you get started. Okay, 2-point perspective, 1-point perspective. This is General Vallejo's house, Ranchero. He was another important person. Yeah. Yep. Pretty cool, huh? And you could, yep. That is cool. Right. Yep. And you might even, now since you have some background data, you might even want to learn even more about it. Because, of course, you can imagine what you learned in a week or two in 4th grade or even a month is a small part of all that you could possibly learn about it. And it depends on if you have time, right? Yep. Yep. And so that's good. That's called being a lifelong learner. And that's something that you want to, or we like to help people try to be. I know something about that. I wonder if I can know more. And that's a really, really good, a good way to be. It's a really good way to be. So that's really what I wanted to cover today. Sort of what is sketching about? How does it fit into this course? Yeah. So Natalia, I know for you that's super hard. Uh, it's like, no, I don't want to just do a sketch. I want to do a perfectly wonderful, detailed drawing. But just keep in mind, the purpose is to have a talking point. Very, very basic, right? And you talk about having a client or a customer, and that comes with experience. How much do you want to show the client? How much is too much? Because they'll take your idea and run with it with somebody else? How much is not enough because they just don't get it and they don't think that there's much to it? This is one of the hardest things there is in design, is figuring out the right amount. So I'm telling you, for this one, it's a very small amount. Very, very small amount. Okay? Not too much detail. You're going to find that using a tool like SketchUp, you can almost get the 2D sketch from a beautiful 3D model that was done very quickly, and be halfway down the road and not have to do it again. So keep that in mind. Let's see. What's the difference between what's on slide 4? Let me see what slide 4 is. So, well, let me see. Slide 4 is this the one you're talking about, Casey? Okay. So this one is this one is essentially what you're seeing right here. Just a real simple, perspective lines. I got it. And you could choose any one of these. You could do finding the perspective lines here, or here, or here, or here. Okay. And then let's see, on 5 and 6, that's where you sort of finish one of them up and do a whole bunch more. So on here, you've got maybe the 1-point perspective that you saw in, let's say you went back to this one, and then you really finish it up by putting in the doorways and the lampposts and maybe getting some curves in for the car and a little bit of work on how to put the trees in and some of this filling. Just adding, it's a much more complete version of this. Okay? Does that help? And then on number 6, I think I specify that it's the 2-point, right? Yeah. So on 6, it's the same way, where you're going to take one of the, there's multiple 2-point ones, but this is the easiest, most simple of the 2-point to do. But this is a really cool one, because this one you do get to do your own design. So if you're kind of good at this and want to press yourself forward, you can put a carport in here and show a carport sitting here. And that's a real job that Professor Chicoine had to do years and years ago. And she got the approval to let us use the images and reproduce that job in our classes, because she said it was just a great perspective job, and she just needed something because the planning department didn't get what they were doing, and they were concerned about the neighbor and what it would be like for the neighbor. So there was just a quick sketch. She happened to do it in AutoCAD, but it won't matter. Cool? That's a good question. Thank you for getting that clarification. Okay, so things to watch, things to watch, things to watch, and then things to do. Just get started. To get started, what you do is you go into, I didn't put it on here. It's in the what to do here. You go into here. Okay. That's your material resources to do all the work. Okay. The to do stuff is here. So get your materials. It's a link. Watch all the stuff. I'll be adding some more and then get started. So for the rest of the week, I'll be doing further demonstrations and answering questions. Okay? So before we close out, because I do have a couple of appointments coming up, as you can see, isn't that awesome? Look at that. Appointments, I love it. Okay, that's my hope. Any questions before I hop into my appointments? Okay, then I'm going to stop the recording